John Smith is saying, didn't Palestinians choose to get the Russian vaccination and opt out of the Israeli program? Actually, I don't think that's okay. Hold on.
No, yeah. So let me just say this really quick. They didn't opt out of, not from what I've read, at least, unless you have something here, opting out of the Israeli program. But they did order the Russian vaccines. They've gotten, I think, 10,000 of them so far. 5,000 of them have been administered, which is, again, peanuts.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I just want to refer to why we were such. So this is from The Guardian, saying Israeli said to have used COVID vaccine as bargaining tools in Syria prisoner swap. Russia mediated deal in which Israeli woman was exchanged for 2 Syrian shepherds. Israel secured coronavirus vaccines for the Syrian regime as part of a Russian mediated prisoner swap agreed this week, according to an Israeli source and local media reports. The source, who requested anonymity, did not state the number of vaccines or whether they were from Israel's own supply. An Israeli reporter wrote on Twitter that the country had paid Russia $1.2 million for its Sputnik V vaccine as part of the deal, citing foreign sources. The Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced on Friday that a young Israeli woman who crossed the border into Syria was heading back to the country. In return, the Israeli government had returned to 2 Syrian shepherds it had been holding. He said it is not clear why Israeli. Okay, yeah. So this is another deal.
Yeah, I don't know. They're making deals. So I don't know, man. This whole place, I don't get that.
There was another. This was about this. Yeah, but there was another one. This is about the prisoner swap, but there was another one that was being used against the Palestinians government as well. But yeah, but it doesn't. Yeah, and again, we have to decide which one we're talking. When we talk about Palestinians, we have to also remember that we're talking about 2 governments, right? When you say Palestinians opt out of this or opt out into that, are we talking Hamas or are we talking about Fatah? Oh yeah, here. Israel uses vaccine as bargaining chip.
But it's okay. So I think they're kind of I think overall the idea is did they opt out or not? I don't think they really had that much of a choice. I mean, the way the vaccination drive was happening is as early as January 6th, Amnesty International had put out a report saying, denying COVID-19 vaccines to Palestinians exposes Israel's institutionalized discrimination. So they call this out, this Amnesty International, and the same kind of thing that you have the Israeli Health Ministry's comments, and ultimately they got their vaccines. The Palestinians got their vaccines. The Russian vaccines, the Sputnik, came to Israel, and then it was shipped over to Ramallah in Palestine. There's only about 5,000 doses, so they're trying to get it wherever they can.
I really want to go over the things that. I have a list here. I actually made this a couple of days ago about the things in Israel that I'm for and I'm against. If we have time, I want to go through that. I've never read this list to anyone before. I just like making it, But I do want to I only want to do that if we have time, right? But I do want to really quickly, because we're getting close to 1 hour mark. Read the comments here by our.
Okay, so FA is saying, have you guys watched Abby Martin's interviews with Israelis? What are your thoughts on the anti-Palestinian sentiment in Israel? So I haven't. I have seen Armin Navabi's interviews with Israelis, and also one of the guests that we had, remember, who interviews and talks to them. Those I've seen a lot, but.
Actually, I interviewed a lot of Israelis in Israel about Palestinians, and I can tell you there doesn't seem to be a their views seem to be here's the thing: these interviews, my interviews, Abby Martin's interviews, these are not very. They're not scientific. Well, not very. I'm saying not very, not at all scientific, right? So you shouldn't base your. My impression seemed to be like every single Israelis their views are very diversified, right? Like it's all over the place. Like in Palestine, both I met with a lot of a lot of atheists, Palestinians and Muslim Palestinians, they seem to be more on the same side of how anti-Israeli they are, except there were some rare differences when it comes to the young generation, right? They seem to be a little bit different than the older people. But the Muslims and the atheist Palestinians seem to be having closer views with each other when it comes to Israel. In Israel, they seem to be very different. Like every two Israelis seem to disagree with each other, and this was true among both Jewish Israelis and Arab Israelis. They didn't seem to have they didn't seem to agree much. So, but again, this is not a poll, scientifically collected poll. If you want to look at what the average opinions are, it's better to look at scientific polls and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Can we highlight John Smith's comment? So this one. I actually want to read something that's very relevant to this, and it has to do with Christopher Hitchens. So John Smith is saying having a country for Jewish self-determination and treating Palestinians fairly can both be true. And this I completely agree with. I mean, this is exactly what it is. You know, does Israel have the right to be a Jewish state? Of course it does. But can they also treat Palestinians the same? They can. So Armin, I just want to read out the Christopher Hitchens quote on this, because I think.
All right, I'm gonna go use the washroom while you read that. Okay, be right back.
Okay. Oh my God, Armin, you didn't go before? It's all right. It's okay. Let's go. Go for it. So I'll read it out. So this is Christopher Hitchens on Israel, right? And this is probably, I can't remember when it was. I think it was around 2010. He died in 2011. So he said, quote, "In order for Israel to become part of the alliance against whatever we want to call it, religious barbarism, theocratic, possibly thermonuclear theocratic, or nuclear theocratic aggression, it can't. It'll have to dispense with the occupation. It's as simple as that. It can be, you can think of it as a kind of European-style, Western-style country if you want. But if it can't govern other people against their will, it cannot continue to steal their land in the way that it does every day. And it's unbelievably irresponsible of Israelis, knowing the position of the United States and its allies knowing the position that the United States and its allies are in around the world, to continue to behave in this unconscionable way. And I'm afraid I know too much about the history of the conflict to think of Israel as just a tiny little island surrounded by a sea of ravening wolves and so on. I mean, I know quite a lot about how that state was founded and the amount of violence and dispossession that involved, and I'm a prisoner of that knowledge. I can't unknow it." End quote. And this is, I think, really goes to the heart of what John Smith's comment was, that Hitchens was actually very, very pro-Jewish self-determination. He was big on it. He was Jewish himself. His mom was Jewish. But he was very adamant about this, the democratic precepts that Israel claims, and Israel being able to earn those claims, like earn credibility for those claims by treating Palestinians in a fair way.
Hey guys, if you want to join these streams live, get your comments and questions read by Ali and Armin and the guests, and most importantly, to get full access to the full video versions of all these episodes, become a patron. Link in the description below.